All right, we are going live, and here we are. Tim Riley, I'm so delighted to celebrate this day with you. Hold your book up. Yahoo! The Yellow Footprints. So we're celebrating Timothy Riley's book launch called The Yellow Footprints, and I wanted to introduce you to Tim. He's a remarkable human being who learned a lot of life lessons through his time in the Marines. And of course, with the title The Yellow Footprints, we do recognize that that is something very unusual to the Marines. So, Tim, let's talk about your book and what motivated you to decide to write a book about this time in your life, and what you hope that readers will get from being able to read your book.
Well, thank you very much, Becky, for having me on. And I'm happy today is a launch day for a long overweighted day to get my book out. Where do I start? For over years and years, people keep telling me as I have conversations about different things, write a book. Why don't you write a book about it? Why don't you write a book about it? So I did. I started to write a book about 3 years ago about my life. I didn't know what prompted me to start on a certain date. I had to figure out what day do I want to start on. I'm not a young man anymore, so I had 78 years to choose from. And so I picked the time that I thought was probably most impressionable in my life, which was when I was out of high school and college. And an event that occurred when I was a freshman in college, and I went home on spring break. I was there on a basketball scholarship at Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I'm from Detroit. And it was a terrible experience as a freshman in college on a scholarship. NCAA had some pretty strict rules. Couldn't have a job. I come from a pretty poor family in Detroit, so I didn't have any extra money. So it was like being in prison almost, being in my dorm and around campus. So it wasn't a real good experience for an 18, 19-year-old kid. So when I came home on spring break, I had a friend of mine who I worked for his father off and on, who owned a lumber yard, and I needed some extra money. So when I went back to school, I could at least have some money to do something with for the remainder of the school year. But I was going to be getting out in June to come home for the summer. I had a brother getting married in May, a sister getting married in June. And so I went to the lumber yard and said, hey, you need any help for the week? And they said, yeah, come on. We'd love to have you there. You're a good worker, blah, 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 blah. So I made like $300 for working there for like 4 days.
Wow.
So instead of going back to school, I stuck around for another week. Also, I have to throw in there, I didn't have a real good relationship with my mother back in those days. And when I came home from school, she was kind of always on me about this and that and the other thing. And so I moved in with Zane. He had his own apartment. So I moved in with Zane and partying at night and on weekends. And I was having a pretty good time. So I decided not to go back on Sunday and stayed another week. It worked. And the second week I was there, I made a lot of money. I made over $500 for a 19-year-old kid. That was a lot of money back in the 60s. And we partied again some more. And I was going to go back that Sunday. And I decided to stay one more week and make some more money and party. So I actually stayed home for 3 weeks. And then when I finally did go back to school, because I had been gone so long, I lost my scholarship. I got kicked out of school. And so I went back to the lumberyard, moved back in with Zane. And 3 weeks later, I got my draft notice. And I did what every 19-year-old kid would do. I panicked. What am I going to do? I have 2 weddings to come up. My mom would have put a hit out on me if I would miss those weddings. So anyhow, I ended up joining the Marine Corps. And the reason I joined was I had the guy, the gunnery sergeant who was his name was Granger, gunnery sergeant Granger, explained to me all the stuff, all my options and so forth. Was a very nice guy. And he said, listen, you can stay home all summer. You won't miss any of your weddings. I'll get you out of the draft, and you won't have to report till September. So I said, hey, where do I sign my name? So I joined the Marines. I enjoyed my summer, and in September, I went to boot camp. And when I decided to write a book about that start that point in my life, I realized all my life that my whole life was based and focused on what I had learned in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps was the basis of everything I did from the time I was 19 until just up to last week, as a matter of fact. It was my foundation. It taught me discipline, self-confidence, uh, all the life's lessons that are important I learned in the Marine Corps. And so I decided that would be my starting point. So when I started my book, initially it was over 2,000 pages. And who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy a novel of someone who's never written a book before? So I had to whittle it down to something that was going to be readable. I was told I needed no more than 250 pages. And so the only thing that fit in a book of the size of 250 pages out of what I wrote was my experience in boot camp. So I decided to come up with a name, the Yellow Footprints, and that was because anybody and everybody who goes into the Marine Corps, the first thing that happens when you step off that bus, whether it's at Parris Island or MCRD San Diego, and all the yelling and screaming that goes on, and you stand on them yellow footprints. That's where it all begins. That first night, or first day, whatever day, any Marine who has been in the Marine Corps experience is that moment of terror on the yellow footprints.
Yellow footprints.
Yellow footprints. I've never forgotten that, and so that's where I started, and that's my first book. I do have a couple more books I'm going to write about, which will be part of those 2,000 pages that I started with. But the first one is the Yellow Footprints, and it talks about my 11 weeks transition from being a civilian to becoming a Marine, and what we had to go through those 11 weeks, transitioning us from being a civilian puke, as we were referred to a United States Marine, earning our Eagle Globe and Anchor. And any Marine who's been in the Marine Corps would find pretty much the same experiences that they went through in boot camp. Again, regardless of where they went, there's something in this book that they experience exactly the same thing.
Wow.
Maybe more in detail, maybe less in detail, maybe more violent, maybe less violent. I know they all did thousands and thousands of push-ups. We're up at 5 every morning and hopefully got to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Stood in line in those mess halls at attention. Couldn't sit down until given the order to sit. They didn't do it together. They had to stand up and do it over again. But they taught us how to make our bed, how to shine our shoes, how to stand tall, how to get a good haircut. And they built us, they broke us down from being civilians and made us into Marines.
It's been an interesting time for you, and it was really laid the framework for you to be the incredible human being that you are today. So that is beautiful. There's a saying that you have written. It's in the pages of the book, and it is also on the back cover. And it says, it's been said 80% of your life is just showing up. If 80% of life is just showing up isn't sufficient to be successful, but it's necessary. Let's talk about that.
Well, no matter what you do or what you try to accomplish, if you don't show up, how do you start it? But you got to start it. You got to get there to start something. So, but 80% of whatever you try to accomplish in your life is just showing up first. And then it's the 20% of the effort you put in. What you get out of it, what you put into it, is probably a very important aspect. Nothing in, nothing out. So if you want results, you have to work at it. Nothing's given to you. You have to earn everything you get. I learned that in the Marine Corps. They didn't give us a thing. Anything we got, we had to earn, and that stayed with me. And through my life and through all the things that I've done, good and bad, successful and not so, was all based on showing up first, and then the effort that I put into it. And I got back exactly what I put into it. Nothing less, nothing more.
Right. So from your perspective, looking at the way where our world is right now, a lot of turmoil, a lot of things going on. What message would you give to perhaps young people that are observing what's going on? We know that people our age are going, we know what we feel about it, but for those starting out, we had a gentleman that we did an interview with earlier this morning, whose son is he himself was a Marine, and his son is now 4 weeks into boot camp. And there's a lot of observation as to what our young people are facing today. What would you say to them?
Well, everybody's different, and they all come from different backgrounds. They've all had different experiences. They've been taught different things by their parents. They've gone to different schools. They live in different states. They live in different neighborhoods. They are exposed to different things, some good, some bad. And we all have one thing in common. We have free will. And so none of us can ever make a bad decision. Any decisions that we make, we have to think about. No one makes a decision to go to jail. It happens because of the bad decision you make, and if you get caught at it. But you wouldn't make that decision without knowing the consequences. One of the things I used to say all the time was, there are three kinds of people in the world. There are people who make things happen. There are people who watch things happen, and there are people who say, "What happened?" And so I always kind of looked at myself as being the guy that make things happen, because by making things happen, I always had better things that I could enjoy myself. A lot of friends, I shouldn't say friends, a lot of acquaintances in my life watched things happen. A lot of what happened after the fact. But there's been a good number of people I associated with that made things happen, and I kind of levitated towards those kind of people. I think if you put 100 people in a room, you'd be surprised if you left them in that room for 8 hours. At the end of the day, people who make things happen would kind of levitate all together in conversation. People who watch things happen would kind of levitate over another part of the room. And people who said, "What happened?" who knows where they'd be. And that's been something I've learned all my life. And I started off in a car business at 22 years old. I was never trained. I was just given a price book and a pen and say, "Hey, go get them. You're a young man. Watch and observe." No one ever taught me how to sell cars. I sold cars. I was in the finance business, part of the dealership. Then I went on to the insurance business, and that's when I learned how to sell. And the insurance industry is a good place to learn how to do the right thing as far as how to sell. Most people today don't get taught anything in school anymore. And it's kind of sad when I look back at when I went to school. We had consequences. There was fear. There was respect. And not everybody experiences all that. We have a lot of great people in this country, a lot of great kids. I worked with kids for 10 years in the Sea Cadet program, and great young men and women. And I'm still friends with those kids today, and I've watched them grow, careers in the military. Some chose not to go into the military, went on to school, or went on to different occupations. But you get out of life what you put into it.
Absolutely.
And I think kids today, they need to find a direction, find either a mentor. If their parents aren't teaching them the right thing, they're lucky enough to find someone that they can mentor with or get involved in a youth group. We're not born smart, but we're not born dumb. We're born with the ability to think, and we're taught the things that that make us who we are. And if you're taught the wrong things, bad things can happen to you, and you miss out on a lot of good things. If you're taught well and you listen, I remember the first thing my dad told me as I got out of the car before I caught the plane to go to San Diego. He said, "Don't ever volunteer." And he says, "Remember one thing, keep your mouth shut and your ears open, because you're not going to learn anything while you're talking. You only learn while you're listening." I didn't forget that either. So I had some good mentors, my grandfather, my dad, and I remember things that they taught me, and it served me well over the years. I wish I would have listened to more of the things they told me when I was younger.
Don't we all? Yes, yes.
So, but you learn. And when you know that there's consequences for your actions, and today it seems like when you watch the news, a lot of these young people today, they think they can just do what they want to do. without any consequences. Say the biggest problem I think is that the internet was a great invention. However, I think that with cell phones and stuff, a lot of bad things have happened out of that too. So,
Well, you know, I think that with the advent of the internet being what it is, the technology that we have, we don't often, because of the news, we typically only hear the bad stuff anyway. We don't often hear the, the amazing good things that young or old are doing, because it seems a lot of negativity. But I believe that there are amazing young people out there that will be our future leaders, and um, it's up to us to shine the light and the example for them, which you've done a really good job of.
I've always believed in that you have to give back a little. I've been very fortunate in my life, and so it's important because I've always said to whom much is given, much is required. And
Right?
maybe doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but if you've been given, you've been blessed to be given things because of your efforts, and you become successful or had success in one form or another, and success can be measured many ways. It's important that you give some of that back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what's next, Tim?
Well, let's see. I finished my second book 3 weeks ago, but then
Then
uh,
lost it.
I deleted it, so I have to start all over again. But what's next now is I'm going to do some book signings on my book. My wife and I are taking a trip to Minnesota in June for some graduations of my grandchildren. One of my grandsons is graduating. Uh,
Congratulations.
See some of my relatives that I haven't seen for a while. Spend some time visiting with people that I've enjoyed for many years while I lived in Minnesota. Promote my book. Maybe have a book signing on there for those that live in the area and have bought my book. Maybe put something together for if they want my signature in the book. Uh, who knows? Who might not even sell any copies. I don't know, but um, hopefully I can get a couple more books written in my time I have left. The dear Lord willing, so I can take the 2,000 pages that I wrote initially and make a couple books out of it.
Make them something that somebody would read. So your second one, what are you going to name that book?
Well, the second book actually starts off when I go to. I was supposed to go become an air traffic controller. Was with my MOS when I got out of boot camp. But when I went to Pensacola, Florida, the Marine Corps overbooked the school, and we ended up with 190 guys showing up for a school of 38. So they
Oh,
shipped us all out, and of course, the needs of the Marine Corps always come first. So I ended up going to California, Camp Pendleton, the Westpac, and Okinawa, and Vietnam. So my second book is going to be about Vietnam, and the name of the book is going to be "An Angel on My Shoulder." Is the title I picked so far, unless something drastically happens and I change that title.
beautiful. Well, we'll look forward to that. And I know you've done some other books that are for the zoos, pretty incredible books. I would love to see what's going to happen with those as well. And so,
The zoo book, the zoo books.
books. Would love to see that come to light because they're absolutely exquisite. So, with that, we want to congratulate you on your very first book that's brought out to the world. We have the link in the chat for all the different places that this video has gone live to, and we want to congratulate you because you are now a best-selling author. So,
Well, thank you very much.
very good.
I appreciate that, and thank you for all of your support and your help. I don't think I could have gotten to where I'm at without that help and support, and I'll always be thankful to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed getting to know you as you and your beautiful wife. And
Thank you.
so
And actually, I don't take credit for those zoo books. Those are my wife's endeavors that I've just been helping her with, and I haven't done a very good job because we still haven't got them published yet. But those books were made specifically for zoos. Each individual zoo, the animals in the book are, for example, the Wildlife Zoo here in Arizona, the San Diego Zoo. They're not the same animals in each book. They're about individual animals in those zoos, and having some trouble getting into these zoos because of the politics. But I'll work around that.
Well, if anybody's listening and knows how he can do that, reach out to
I
us.
appreciate it. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
awesome. Congratulations to you, Tim. What an accomplishment.
Thank you very much, Becky. Appreciate it very much.